You've probably heard of sidechaining and maybe even watched a video or 2 or 10 about how to do it for various styles of music or in mixing, and are wondering if you're going to learn anything new in this series. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that yes, there is a high likelihood that you will learn something new. I'm going to show you some things I've not seen here, and in fact will also correct some common mistakes by the end of this video. In this first video in the series, I'm going to define some terms to make sure we're all crystal clear on what's going on with your compressor, gate, or other processor. And then in the next 2 videos, I'll get into some useful techniques for mixing and mastering, and also some pretty cool creative uses for gates, filters, and distortion. I'll be using Apple Logic and Ableton Live, and also some FabFilter plugins in those videos, but the concepts will apply to most anything that you're using. This is Brian Jackson, Ableton certified trainer from Brooklyn, New York, and author of the Music Producer's Survival Guide, Chaos, Creativity, and Career in Independent and Electronic Music. I offer private lessons, coaching, and mastering services. Check the description for more info. So, what is sidechaining and what is a sidechain? As you might already know, sidechaining is a technique most commonly referred to as ducking. For example, setting up a compressor on a bass or synth that is triggered by a kick drum, so that every time the kick hits, the bass or synth lowers in volume or pumps. Or perhaps to duck music out of the way when a DJ or YouTuber is talking. Also, instead of a compressor, modern genres often use a dedicated volume shaper or ducking plugin such as Cable Guy's Volume Shaper, Xfer's LFO tool, or Devious Machine's Duck. I might get into duck a bit in part 3, but regardless, there are other sidechaining uses and techniques that I'll show you later on. What is a sidechain? Let's start by talking about common dynamics processors such as a compressor or a gate. A dynamics processor is basically an amplifier controlled by a signal from a sidechain. The sidechain is always there and always active. Without it, you basically just have a volume knob. You are not turning on the sidechain when you're sidechaining, you are simply routing signals in a specific way. Again, the sidechain is always there and always active. And in this case, think of the word chain as meaning a signal path, as in a chain of effects. Check out this block diagram from Rain's website. The link to the excellent article on their site that I got this image from is linked in the description below. With a feed-forward design, the most common design, as you can see here, your signal goes into the compressor or gate, then through a gain control element such as a VCA or FET or a digital algorithm, and then out of the processor. Notice the signal also goes into another signal path, the sidechain. Whether a limiter, downward or upward compressor, or expander, the gain control turns the signal up or down based on what's happening in the sidechain. The detector usually measures an RMS or peak level, but it can be something else in more advanced processors. Then the measured level is sent to what Rain here refers to as the gain computer. Computer here meaning something that is computing a value to output, whether an analog voltage or digital calculation. This image is also from Rain's site from the same article, and fills in some details based on one of their designs, which as far as a block diagram goes, works very well generically. Notice that if we remove the sidechain, we might as well just have a volume slider. So what about sidechaining? In this slide, also from Rain's site, we see that now we have the option for a separate signal input, a key input, or additional source that can feed the sidechain. Check out this image of Drummer's DS201 gate, which, by the way, I highly recommend if you need a hardware gate for any reason, and you can find them used for relatively cheap and via the link in the description as well. The DS301 even includes the option for a MIDI trigger of the sidechain. Notice the separate key inputs for each channel on the rear of the unit here. And on the front, there's a switch to select the key source, internal or external. Here's that Rain slide again. Now here's a slide from a video here on YouTube from an otherwise very knowledgeable and reputable source. I suspect that a lot of people think this is what's going on, and 20 years ago it could have been me, but this block diagram can't represent a compressor or gate. Notice that everything related to the sidechain is wrong. And this isn't showing some other topology such as a feedback design. It is simply incorrect and shows a device that would only be triggered by an external signal. So let's take a look at a few stock devices from common DAWs. If we look on the right of Logic's compressor, we see a sidechain chooser, which defaults to internal, or we can pick another channel as our sidechain input. If we click on the sidechain toggle in Live's compressor, we see the sidechain controls. This switch toggles the external input chooser on or off. We are not toggling the sidechain on or off itself. And here in Pro Tools, we can see that they actually use a little key to represent the external source input, in this case a bus, and another little key over here to switch to the external key. So the sidechain is always there and always active, and sidechaining is a technique when we switch from the internal key to an external key to feed a signal to the detection circuit, and then eventually to the gain control element. Now that we're working from a shared knowledge base, in the next video, I'm going to get into the sidechain EQ or filter options and show how you can use them whether sidechaining or not. And on a final note, if you're wondering why I didn't name this series Ultimate Sidechain Fundamentals, while researching this video, I learned there's something in blockchain and crypto called a sidechain and wanted to make sure to draw the correct audience. If you appreciate this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing, sharing, or commenting.